All right, welcome back to another episode of the Four Train Savages podcast, episode number 16 with Rob and Tyler. And today we got another special guest on the pod, Tyler Stanzo, a contributor for the Bronx Pinstripes. Stanzo, how we doing, man? Appreciate you coming on the
Going
pod.
on, boys? Thanks for having me. Excited to talk a little Yanks.
Absolutely. So it's a rough year. We were talking about it right before we started recording. We had some comments on it, but we're gonna dive right into it on the pod. I think we should start. Do we want to start with the postseason, or should we kind of talk about just how we started with the whole regular season of starting off good for 20 games and then a bad stretch of 20 games and then another good stretch and then the last week kind of fell off. So, Nick, what was your vibe heading into the postseason? Were you feeling good about that Cleveland series?
It was weird because this team, I think it was evident the way they operated all year that no matter how good or bad things were going, their plan was kind of to just turn it on in the postseason. Whether it was how they handled guys' injuries, I don't really think they rushed anybody back. I think they're being overly cautious with guys like Judge and Stanton, where they probably could have come back if, there was even times where they said things like if it was a playoff game tonight, he'd be playing. So I wasn't really too optimistic that they would be able to flip the switch, especially when you're staring at Shane Bieber, who was the best pitcher in all of baseball this year, and then Carlos Carrasco in game 2. But they definitely proved me wrong. I'm not saying I thought we were going to lose the Cleveland series, but I definitely didn't anticipate them coming out and scoring, 22 runs in 2 games. So
Yeah.
we
went off. We went off, though. Yo, that was crazy. I was telling Tyler on the pod, I was like, yo, it's actually insane that we just fucking rattled off the amount of runs that we did. And then, before, especially the last week against the Marlins and a little bit of the Blue Jays, I was like, they just flipped some fucking switch that I didn't know they had. They are the Yankees, and the lineup has been doing this, and they proved in past years that they could do it. But I was still kind of with the vibe of the whole year, it got a little depressing at the end. I was like, oh, shit, we're playing.
No, 100%.
And then you got to go out and face Shane Bieber, who's that dude. And I don't know about you two, but I was out of everyone in the AL East, I know it's just not really fitting now, or not the AL East, AL, excuse me, but I was scared as shit to play the Indians, because they got Bieber coming right at you full storm. And then, like you said, Carrasco, and then they got Plesac too, who's no joke. And Rob, like you both said, they kind of just flipped some type of switch that we knew they had, but we didn't really feel it coming. We were looking rough the couple series before the Indians.
It's funny because I had a blog in August, earlier mid-August, and basically the point of it was the Yankees need to win their division because I don't want to see the Indians in the first round. So obviously, we saw them anyway. But I was basically saying, this guy Shane Bieber's legit. He would pitch game 1, and this was before they traded Clevenger. And I was like, I don't want to see Clevenger game 2 on top of Plesac, Carrasco, those guys coming out of the pen. But, they really proved me wrong. I mean, that really gave me some hope going into the Tampa series. And it was like, all right, they've shown now that they can hit elite pitching. So let's go see them do it against Tampa. And for the most part, aside from game 5, they really did. I mean, the offense, I wouldn't say, was the reason they lost that series, even though as poorly as they were in game 5, they produced against what I think in the Rays is the best pitching staff in all of baseball, top to bottom.
Tyler, yo, I would say coming into if any listeners of the past pods, I was saying yo, the Tampa Bay starting pitching is nothing to say oh, we just got to worry about the bullpen. Charlie Morton has been on his shit. He's been really good.
I'll keep it a buck. I definitely underestimated Charlie Morton big time going into this series, just because you kind of look at the two horsemen, and I hate Blake Snell, so I don't even want to call him a horseman. But you look at Tyler Glasnow stuff, this massive 6'10" or however big it seems he is, dude with luscious long hair throwing absolutely ridiculous stuff at you. He's hitting 101 and then dropping a 12-6 curve on you. That just looks stupid. So I was pretty scared of them too. But then after, I really wasn't too worried about Charlie Morton, which obviously came to bite me in the ass. And I don't know if it however many other Yankee fans it bit in the ass, but he dealt, and he's still dealing. He's been the most consistent pitcher on that staff throughout the postseason, which is shocking to me a little bit, even though he is, a seasoned arm, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
a part of that Astros bullshit, but we're just gonna pass on that. But yeah. So talked a little bit about the Tampa series. The bats, like you said, like you thought that the bats were not as bad as they have been critiqued. Like I thought, and I think me and Tyler have discussed that they were just very on and off and very shaky, it seemed like. And that's like I know, Tyler, this is a point that you've made, is like the way that the bats perform is like bipolar, and they just are good one time and then they're just can't hit a lick the next. So you felt good about the bats, even though like what we saw, or what was like kind of the big takeaway there?
Here's the thing. If you asked me coming into this year, why will the Yankees not win the World Series, I would have said the bats. Because if you look at 2017, 2018, 2019, people, complain about starting pitching or whatever, and that factors in. But if you look at it, 2017, they didn't hit in Houston. 2018, the bats went quiet in games 3 and 4. And then last year, the bats really didn't produce against Cole in game 3. They went quiet in game 6 for the most part. So I would say the offense was the primary reason. This year, I can't say that. I know that they only put up 1 run in game 5, but it's a tough task. I mean, they were going off, against Cleveland. They produced in pretty much all 4 of the first 4 games, scored enough runs where you should at least feel like, if you put up 4 or 5 runs in a playoff game, you should feel like you have a chance to win that game. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, it's not their fault that Jay Happ is going to come give back those 4 runs in one time through the lineup because he stinks, but we'll get to him later. But, I can't look at the season, and as frustrating as Game 5 was, and I do think they need to switch things up a little bit. I would love for them, we can talk about targets later, I would love for them to get 1 or 2 more lefty bats. I think the narrative has switched now. It's gone so full circle that because, they scored 1 run in Game 5, it's we need a whole new lineup. We need this. Like, we need 4 more DJs. At the end of the day, home runs win in the playoffs. You look how the Rays beat us. It was home runs. You look how the Astros beat us last year. They had a worse batting average than us in that series. They homered us to death. It's the big home run. That's what wins in the playoffs. You're not going to, off a pitcher like Glasnow, you're not going to single him to death. You need Giancarlo to hit a 3-run homer. So I think that needs to be a shakeup in the lineup. I don't think that it needs to be as drastic as a lot of people are letting it on to be.
Yeah, I mean, well, also the thing with that is like there's not really for me there's not really much flexibility that we could do this offseason that has me think like a lot of these we'll get into it later, but some of these opinions of Yankees Twitter is actually ridiculous. Like some of
they give us a bad rep, dude.
Dude, they really do. Like oh my goodness, we've
seen some bad ones.
Opinions, man. It's insane. But yeah, I mean, I think before we head into thinking about certain hitters that we want to acquire this offseason and even pitchers, do we want to talk about that Game 2 decision? You kind of talked about it a little bit. And what's your opinion, just real quick, what's your opinion on Aaron Boone? Do you believe he's a puppet?
Oh, he absolutely is. I mean, he 100% is. I don't want to say he has no factor in the decisions, but it's been pretty evident since day one. Brian Cashman hired him so that he could have more influence because he never had this kind of influence over Joe Torre and Joe Girardi. So, this was a guy he's been GM for 20 years. He wants to run the show. He wanted to bring in a guy who was on the same page as him all the time. So I don't want to say Aaron Boone has no influence, but it's pretty clear that Brian Cashman has been more heavily involved these past 3 years than he ever has before.
Yeah. So big Aaron Boone hating podcast, I'll be honest. Like,
okay,
full
that's
transparency.
Fine by me.
But
yeah, we're there.
All right, Nick, here's the reason why I'm like this. Like, I've had this conversation with Tyler. If you really think about it, if you look at just doing the math, our best year of getting the furthest that we could was 2017, right? When Game 7, and you could say like certain factors played in, whatever. But that is, nonetheless, that is how far that we've gotten, and that's the farthest that we've gotten in this past year. So when we bring in the new regime with Aaron Boone, clearly it hasn't gotten us to that point. Like, I'm thinking, okay, when the hire happened, like, I was a big Girardi fan. I understand why people don't like Girardi. Like, the move that he did against in the Cleveland series really kind of gave them
I've never been more mad than after that game.
I understand. And it really gave them an opportunity to push him out the door. And I understand. I was a big fan of Girardi. I thought he had us in contention every year, even in the years like when we had Cano as our best player. He was having us at least in the conversation of a wild card spot. So I'm thinking, okay, I understand why they go off from him. And then when they're kind of like talking about decisions of who the manager is going to be, I hear Aaron Boone rumblings, and I go, okay, that's going to be the guy immediately because that's someone Brian Cashman can control. And when you bring him in, and all the Yankee fans on Twitter, some smart Yankee fans on Twitter are saying, oh, well, he's not really the guy making the decisions. It's like, yeah, but Yankee fans are still going to go after him because he's the poster child for all these decisions. He's the manager of the New York Yankees, so that's what's going to happen. So everyone's like up in arms. It's like, yeah, but it's Brian Cashman. But Cashman came out, what was it, on Monday, Tyler? And he goes, he's not a puppet.
Monday.
I did this decisions with Joe Torre, and I did this. No, bullshit, you did this with him. Absolutely not.
Cash might not necessarily be making the decision and going, Aaron, this is what you have to say. But, there's certainly probably more than a few guys in a room along with Boone, Cash, and the analytical department. And they all come – I bet Cash and the analytical department come to a conclusion of something and they go, this is what we're going to do. Right, Aaron? If you kind of catch my vibe.
They're just nudging him. They're like this is what we're supposed to do.
This is the right thing to do, right, Aaron? And they're, yeah, of course. But
sure. And listen, I wasn't the biggest Girardi fan at the time. I mean, that Game 2 decision in Cleveland really pushed me over the edge. But now that some time has passed, and doesn't even have to do anything with Boone, I just think that I didn't appreciate how much he got out of those teams with pretty terrible rosters. Like you said, the 2013 and 14 teams, I know they missed the playoffs. The fact that they were even in contention is kind of crazy. The 2015 team made the playoffs. Team had no business even being in the wild card
Alex
game.
Rodriguez.
And then 2017, that team getting to Game 7 of the ALCS, people don't realize how good the Indians were that year. They had a 22-game win streak that year. So that team had really no business getting as far as they did. So I do give Girardi a lot of credit for that. My favorite that's been going on Yankee Twitter the past couple of weeks is the fans who hate Aaron Boone and want to see him go, but will defend Brian Cashman, and you can't criticize him at all. People need to realize
right there, you're looking at him.
Brian Cashman decision.
You're looking at him.
Maybe a few small ones, but I'm of the belief that they should both be on the hot seat. I'm not saying they both get fired.
You're killing me.
But there should be. I hate the fact that we have a lifetime GM. So I just think people need to either say, yeah, this regime, what's going on? We might need a change soon, or you could defend them both. But you can't say fire Boone, but defend Cashman to the end of the year. It makes no sense.
So are you just kind of putting Cash on the hot seat just because of things like in-game decisions and the analytical bullshit that they've kind of drawn into Yankee world?
Not talent acquisition, I think.
It actually is the opposite because listen, I'm not an analytics guy. I don't understand this shit, but at the same time, I see that. I don't think our problem is that we're going for analytics. I think our problem is that we're probably not using them correctly. Every team uses analytics in some way, shape, or form. So
Absolutely.
The Rays, Dodgers, two of the more analytical teams in baseball, they're in the World Series. So I think we need to put our guys in positions to succeed more. Game 2, stupid decision, pinch hitting Mike Ford over Clint Frazier. I don't know if that's analytics or what. Stupid decision.
Lefty already bullshit.
Cashman.
That was definitely Aaron Boone, though. We talked about it. That was definitely Aaron Boone with a
decision
gut.
like that is probably Boone. You know what I'm saying? That's
I hope he has at least that sort of leeway.
Yeah, I would think so. I don't think Cashman's calling the dugout and telling him who to pinch hit. But
yeah.
I think my biggest beef with Cashman, I had actually a series of blogs about this, is that he is terrible at acquiring starting pitching. You look all the way back from 2000, you can count on one hand the moves that he's made that have worked out. And the majority of them are this is the best pitcher on the market. It's a no-brainer. Go get him. Musina, Cole, CC, even Tanaka. How much credit am I going to give him for saying this is the best pitcher out there? I'll pay him whatever we want because I'm the Yankees. Aside from maybe Hiroki Kuroda, all of his moves that are
shout out.
I don't
Hiroki
even want to say low key
Kuroda.
because they're expensive sometimes. They all haven't worked out. We pay up near the top, if not the most, for pitching in the league, and we're always short on pitching. It's unbelievable because we don't develop it, and we are terrible at acquiring it, which is I don't even know how that's a thing, but that's my biggest beef with Brian Cashman. And I give him credit, the Glaber trade, getting Gio, getting Boyd, awesome. I think the offense, even though it does strike out a lot, it's a little redundant right-handed. Great job building that. Pitching, 0 out of 10. He just can't do it.
Do you think he's just kind of negligent when it comes to the starting staff due to the history of the strong bullpen he's built? Is that why you think he may be a little kind of, starting pitching may get the back seat knowing he's invested money into the back end of the bullpen?
Yeah,
I think those front two starters.
I think to a degree, it's always that he's had the bullpen to lean on. I mean, I think
Yeah.
he saw those teams
It's
how
now
they
starting to hit
operated.
the fucking shit, though.
Right. No, I listen. That's a different story. But I think he did see like the '90s dynasty teams. You look at them; it wasn't just Mariano. Like they had elite back end of the bullpen, and they said like it
Oh,
was
yeah.
basically like get a lead in the 6th inning, and then it's over. Like you hand to the
Oh,
bullpen,
yeah.
it's over. So I do appreciate that. But I remember, last year Zach Britton had literally even said after that got eliminated, you need starting pitching to win. Like especially in a playoff series, you can't be throwing your same bullpen guys every day because no matter how nasty you are, eventually these guys are going to get on your shit and hit it. So listen, I'm not trying to say fire Brian Cashman because I'm a Knicks fan and a Giants fan. I see what turnover does. Like I don't like. I
Rough.
think he knows the
We're
job.
Knicks
You know what I'm
fans,
saying?
too.
I don't want to get into the cycle of hiring a new GM every 2 years like I already do for my other teams. But all I'm asking for is that I just wish his seat was a little bit hot because I don't love that we have this lifetime GM contract where he's essentially an extension of the Steinbrenners at this
Bro,
point.
I-
when he hasn't won in 11 years. I'm sorry.
So that's literally the same thing I've been like trying to express on this too. I think that like in terms of I think the pitching point that you make even more so opens my eyes a little bit and kind of has it like thinking like along those I'm thinking back I'm like yeah Hiroki Kuroda that's pretty much it getting Cole this past offseason but like the other talent moves that's where I give him credit but all I'm saying is like Yankee fans are gonna really start talking if we don't get a championship in the next 2-3 years maybe even next year and how long I think Brian Cashman has 2 more years on his deal.
Yeah, he's got 2 more.
And that's why I'm thinking they should give Boone the same amount of because they're going to re-sign him. Hal Steinbrenner has said it, unfortunately. But that's what it's going to look like. And I think that it's really – and I think Brian Cashman is a good GM, but like you say, he's been here for a long time since, 98? And he has got us I think he really kind of inherited those later dynasty teams, but he still did a good job, and he got us to 2009. But there's going to be a lot of conversation happening if he can't win very soon with this team. And that's kind of just what happens in sports is like, okay, the conversation's getting a little louder with the fan base. And like we say, the fan base is really able to drive decisions for the eventual, like, Steinbrenner's going to be put on the hot seat too. He's going to be like, what am you're not winning, dude. I have to do something about this. So it just looks like that's the direction it's heading if he doesn't put forth a winning team. But let's move on real quick to talk about we kind of veered off a little bit, but with the Devi Garcia, what was just kind of just wrap up, Nick, what was what else do you think that they should have done with that? Or do you think that they should have just kept Devi for 2-3 innings and give him a longer leash? Do you think they should have just started Hap to begin with? Do you think they should have kept Tanaka? What do you think?
I mean, I know hindsight's 2020, but literally everything you just mentioned would have been a better option. I'm not just saying this because it went poorly. I was saying at the time, I don't know how you're doing this because A, you're burning Devi because he threw 20 whatever pitches in the first inning. You don't know what point in the series he's coming back. You've never tested this kid. He's only thrown not even 10 games in the big league. So now you're telling him he's going to start and then maybe either pitch the next day or the day after. That's just that's not his routine. So I don't want to do that. Hap, clearly, he literally said, I felt underprepared for this. I wasn't comfortable, which I did like how Cashman kind of roasted him. I don't know if you guys caught that as press conference saying J Hap's appeared in 15 postseason games, 11 are as a reliever. So that pissed me off. I blogged about that. J Hap, just shut up. Credit to him for early in the year.
The Yankees, dude.
Early in the year when he was talking shit about how they were skipping his starts because they didn't want his option to vest, which was because of A, that, and B, the fact he had a 10 ERA at the time. But props to him. He had more starts to come in, back it up, and he pitched great down the stretch to the point where I wouldn't have freaked out if he was the Game 2 starter. Because he was going to be the Game 3 starter in Cleveland in a winner-go-home game. So I would have started him in a Game 2.
I could not imagine
up 1-0.
happening.
Why not? So, why not? But the fact that he said that I was underprepared. Meanwhile, you're probably never going to pitch as a Yankee again, or at least at the very least not in that series again. That pissed me off to no end. So I hate J Hap. He's the worst. But I would have still started him over doing that plan. If that would have made him comfortable, then fine. Or just start Tanaka in Game 2. So if they either could have let Devi go a couple innings, start Hap, or start Tanaka, and they all would have been better options. And I'm not just saying that in hindsight. I'm saying that because clearly you need to have a finger on the pulse of J-Hap has not bought into this. Because if J-Hap's not buying into this and he's serving up meatballs on 2 strikes to Mike Zunino and not even getting out the lefties that he's supposed to be in there to neutralize, like he's some big like they made it seem like, oh, we got J-Hap coming in like it's prime Randy Johnson.
They're fucked.
Nobody is scared of J-Hap no matter what side of the plate they hit from. I don't care. Like it doesn't like a soft tossing lefty is not intimidating anyone. So if they're gonna put him in that game, at least let him start it. But J-Hap, like you need to like chill. Like, and it's clear because he hates the Yankees, but whatever. I'm just so over him.
Yeah.
J-Hap wouldn't intimidate a fucking 12-year-old dude.
Nope.
Retweet everything you just said, though. Start someone. Just start someone. Actually start them.
Yeah, so I mean, we've already talked so much about this situation in game 2. So we'll just, we got to a game 5, so we'll just leave it there and just see what they do. But some questions under it with pitching rotation of Tanaka and Paxton coming back. We'll leave that for the offseason kind of news and topics. But the media comments, I kind of touched on it with how Brian Cashman responded to the puppet comment, and then how there were like conflicting thoughts on the Devi Happ situation and what was happening there, and we kind of touched on it, and Hal Steinbrenner coming out and saying, yeah, this was a fucking disappointing year, and then Aaron Boone being like, I don't know if it's a disappointing year. I think we had some strong points. Like, no, you
get it together.
You're supposed to do that. It's New York. Like, what is going on? It's just like
George would have had a field day with that.
Well, not even that. It's just like, dude, like you've inherited such a fucking good roster, and like you're just gonna come out and say, yeah, no, I think we had some bright points. Like, get the fuck out of here, dude. Yeah. Absolutely insane. But I would like to get your guys' thought. I know you guys were getting a little spicy on Twitter yesterday. I saw fucking Marcus Stroman has the goddamn urge to say, like, bro, your numbers in the past 2-3 years, like you got fucking absolutely butthurt that the Mets took you instead of the Yankees. And then Cashman said those comments about you because it's the truth, because he's seen you pitch and you haven't been good since I think 2017, I think was the year that with Toronto. I think he had a really good year. I think he went and he only went like 13-9, I think, with like he had a pretty decent 2019, but still, he's in no like position to speak in the same sentence as Garrett Cole, which is just like kind of mind numbing to me.
I mean, the guy has never even been someone you think of as like a Cy Young contender or one of the best pitchers in the league. Like realistically, at his best, he's probably a number 3 at best. On
Good World Baseball Classic pitcher, though.
Yeah. More likely a 4.
Good World Baseball Classic pitcher. He stepped up for the country.
He was a hero for that. No, good for him.
I read somewhere he gave up like 11 hits. I don't even know when he's pitched in a postseason game because I was trying to look up his postseason stats. I didn't end up coming across him, but I read somewhere that he gave up 11 hits in a postseason game a few years ago.
Yeah, it must have been probably 2016 with the Blue Jays. That was the last time the Blue Jays were in.
11 hits is a lot of hits.
Yeah, no, definitely a lot.
Yeah, so that just like,
but
Yankees Twitter was pissed, man. That was just, I was like, bro, you really have the like I could understand if he had.
Did you guys see the Clark comment after that?
Yeah, no, good for Clark for following up.
Yeah, he was like, what did he say? It was something like all love, brother, or something along those lines. It was a pretty big boy, like mature tweet he had back at Stro, which I thought was kind of funny. The 20, like, I don't know how old Clark is, like 21, 22 or something like that. He may even be younger. I'm not sure, but he could just kind of was like, yeah, all right, relax, big guy. We're not here to play your little games because all you do is whine on Twitter. Mm-hmm. And you didn't even play this year, so I don't know why you're even on Twitter. Like, just get off. Like, deactivate yourself until fucking next year. Like, and you're
he blocked half of Yankees Twitter.
Yeah, I had a tweet about him today. I was checking a couple of times. I was like, wonder if he's blocked me. But no, I mean, listen, was I that mad about what he said? Not really. Like, it is what it is. Like, clearly he's mad that Cashman at the deadline last year when they asked him if why he didn't acquire anyone, he said he didn't feel like there were any difference makers. So I'm sure he's probably taking that personally. He's trying to pump up his own stock for his free agency and talk about which is because he has to now that he just decided to sit this year out. But listen, the one thing that actually really pissed me off were Met fans being like oh, he just really bodied the Yankees. Like, He did not. Like, you know who he bodied? Your franchise. You had to trade two top prospects to get him, and he gave you 11 starts in a year that you missed the playoffs. So, like, it just is what it is. But, no, I think that guy's soft. He would be a disaster in New York. And I saw some people making the comparison to Trevor Bauer, which, listen, I don't love when Trevor Bauer's been out, like, selling himself to all these teams. I think it's kind of funny because I enjoy him on social media generally. Like, I think it's a little bit weird, but if anyone's allowed to do it, it's a guy who's going to win the NL Cy Young this year, not a guy who just sat this season out. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
it didn't piss me off as much as something you said before. What with the Boone and Hal refusing to call the season a failure, because this season was a failure. Like, just say it. But Stroman, it is what it is. I think it's more funny than anything. I think it would be hilarious if he somehow signed here and he's got like 70% of the fan base blocked on Twitter.
He spends a whole night unblocking everyone.
Yeah. So those were some of the comments I'm going to run through. I think those are most of them that we covered. The important
Should we dive into the Glaber comment, Rob? I know this is a touchy subject between you and I.
I mean, I guess we can if you want to. You can propose what I was just saying. Like, I don't think it's really that crazy, but you go ahead, Tyler. You could tell him the situation.
Nick, did you see the video? It was obviously the same press conference, but Cashman said something along the lines of, they asked him, what they're going to do with DJ and what their plan is with Glaber at short. And you know how Boone and Cash are pretty known for kind of backing up their players, and they're always looking they're pretty optimistic. They're Gary has more talent than what he showed this year. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, everything is scripted PR. Boone saying, no, I have a lot of confidence in Gary as I played him in 2 out of our 7 playoff games. But yeah.
And then so Cashman, they asked him about short, and instead of Cash going, it was a Corona season, 60-game season, small sample size.
He did kind of say that though. I thought. A little bit.
I mean, he hinted at that he had better talent than what he kind of portrayed this year, but he also said we will evaluate the shortstop position, which was, I don't know, a little, not, I wouldn't say alarming, but it was a little bit of a surprise to me, not in the fact that like Glaber would be to go anywhere, but almost a hint like maybe Glaber's going back to second, or that's kind of the situation they may have in the back of their head, or at least for Cash. And what does that mean for DJ? What do you think that means? I'm not sure if you kind of saw those comments the same way I did, or if you even heard the video I'm talking about. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, Cashman was pretty like non-committal when he was talking about Glaber. And look, I don't think you can be committal right now. I think it's tough. I think if I told you Glaber is going to go into this season playing shortstop the same way he did this year, any rational person is going to say that can't happen. We need someone else there. But at the same time, I mean, I think you guys probably saw Clint Frazier as a finalist for a Gold Glove this year, which the analytics crew tell you Gold Gloves mean nothing. But regardless, he improved a lot this year in the field. And I think part of that was because of the concussion. So I think Glaber this year kind of had a lot on his plate, taking over shortstop for the first time full time, only had like half a spring training or whatever before Corona hit. Then you had the summer camp, and he got off to a slow start and didn't really get it going with the bat. He had the injury. So I want to believe that Glaber can be a shortstop. He's still young. He is a natural shortstop. He has the physical tools to do it. So I think if it were me, I probably would roll with Glaber at short going into next year, but get a better backup, someone better than Tyler Wade to play there if he goes down again. So
agreed.
I don't know. I think Glaber, I hope he could be the shortstop, but I think regardless, I'm thinking their head is in the same place where they want to give him one more chance. And then next year, when 5 of the best shortstops in baseball are free agents, that's when they could potentially look into replacing him and moving him over somewhere.
Yeah, but going forward, do you think Glaber obviously has a spot on this team in an everyday lineup, I would imagine, right?
I would probably say that just given ages and everything, I think Glaber would be the one position player I would keep. Regardless, I'll put him at second, I'll put him at third. I love Gio, I love DJ, but I think Glaber is going to be a superstar. I know people are down on him because he took a step back this year. I think that kid is someone you don't get rid of.
Yeah, no, I agree. And he only kind of played like 45 games this year, and he started hitting like 160. And I think he ended hitting like 240, so he definitely improved on the stretch. But yeah, no, I totally agree on the fact that I think he's kind of locked into this team for for the long run. I know Rob has some thoughts on this. I know I'm not trying to put you in a negative situation at all, Rob, because I know you love Glaber, but we had this discussion a little bit over the
Dude.
phone.
Yeah, no.
So go ahead, run it down for me.
You had sent me the video, and I just like prefaced it basically with like similar comments to what you're making, Nick, maybe a little bit further, I guess. But all I was saying was, listen, you got, and then like the reason that like I really kind of even more started thinking about this is because I know the Yankees Twitter is a lot of them are kind of off with their thoughts and everything, but I see a lot of people like, oh, Lindor's gonna be out there and about, and then you got who are some of the other options like Simeon's a free agent, not Simeon compared to Glaber, but like there's options like you said there. It's coming up with shortstops, and a lot of these names were being thrown out. Yep. So I just go, dude. Don't be surprised if they do what Cashman says and evaluate the situation, because he was pretty bad at shortstop. Like a lot of the balls at transferring on the double play scared me. The glove work was iffy. Some of the throws kind of veered off a lot of times, and I was just like, I like Glaber. Like, don't pin me as a guy that says, like, I don't like Glaber Torres. I understand his talent, like how much we gave up for him from Chicago. There's a reason that he was a top prospect in baseball. There's a reason that we have him on this roster. There's a reason he made, 2 All-Star teams. Like, he's a good fucking ball player. And the comparison that I made to Tyler was a guy that I mentioned, Marcus Semien. So, shout out to my boys on the Town Tailgate podcast, some A's fans. A's fans say, I think the article that I read was like 4 or 5 years ago by I don't know if it was a StatCast or something, but they were talking about his difficulties with his arm. Marcus Semien can hit the fucking shit out of the ball, and he has pretty okay glove work, but his arm was like all over the place. And A's fans were like, do we really want to stick with this guy with the way that he's playing and the way that he's throwing the baseball? And he worked on it. He got with Ron Washington, now third base coach, I think, for Atlanta. Got with Ron Washington, and they fixed the issue. And now he's a coveted free agent this offseason at, I think, 30. And that was just the comparison that I was making for Tyler, that it was like, dude, like Glaber, and like you said, has the option or has the ability, because he's young, and I don't think he has his fucking brain scrambled so much like Gary Sanchez does when it comes to working out and getting motivated and looking like he gives a shit on the field. I think that Glaber Torres is a guy that can turn it around easily, because I think he's a stud, and I think he's a young player, and he can do it. And I think he could go a lot of the route, and it could flip like that for Yankee fans, and they could, forget next season or this season even happened with the COVID year, and it's just like, oh, we're okay. He could play short. But, it's going to be difficult, like, especially those were just alarming to me, that it's like, okay, you're thinking about putting him in another position. Where the fuck are you going to put him? Are you going to put him at second and you not want to sign DJ? Are you going to want him try and put him at third? No, thank you. I don't want him at the hot corner. Like, so that's all I was saying. I like Glaber Torres. His bat is too talented and too good to just say, like, oh, we're going to trade him off. So my thing is, you give him another year or two to see what he does positionally. And like you said, I want a better fucking backup than Tyler Wade. Should be in fucking, what is it? Trenton Thunder or whatever, playing, minor league ball. Honestly, in my opinion, I don't really like him on the roster. I mean, he's fast. Okay, good. But my thing is, they're just, I think it alarmed Yankee fans of like thinking that now it's in Cashman's brain, and they're like, oh wow, like Glaber's not untouchable now. Like, that's all I'm saying. That they're looking at it.
Oh, I would be shocked if they traded him. Like,
no, shocked. I don't think they're trading him, but I think they're going to. They're just looking at the situation, and it's something they're going to keep in the back of their mind. And I don't think he's going to have. And like I was telling Tyler, like, God forbid, like the only thing that I could see them even possibly getting to a trade point is if he had like a drastic fall off like Gary Sanchez, which I don't see happening. Yeah. So
it would. I feel like it'd also have to be kind of like a multi-year, like pretty lengthy, fall off in order, Glaber would have to be like turning 26, and we'd be like, all right, well, 3 years ago, Glaber hit 38 home runs and hit 280, but he's hit 210 and 15 since,
Yeah, well, it would have to be like with Gary, right? I mean, 2016-17, Gary was not only the best hitting catcher in baseball, but one of the just best hitters.
Yeah.
And the guy was an absolute world beater. He was a stud. And now the last 3 years, you're looking at it, he really had a good first half in 2019, and that's it. He's hitting 200 since the start of 2018. So, yeah, it would take that kind of fall for Glaber to get to the point where I think the Yankees would think about moving on for him. But the really tricky thing is, if they extend DJ and bring him back, like I hope and I think we all hope, they're not going to pay him the premium he's going to cost to move him to first base. Like forget Luke Voigt for a second, because obviously he's a stud too in his own right. Say even Yankee fans saying, "Oh, we'll give Gleyber another year. If he can't play short, move him to second and move DJ to first." You think they're going to pay DJ $20-25 million a year to play him at not his best position at first base, move him off his Gold Glove position, and then go out and pay $30 million a year for Seager, Lindor, Trevor Story? I don't see that happening. So it's kind of
where you put in Luke
now, where it's all right, we're going to let DJ walk, bring in a replacement for him, and then go after a shortstop next winter, or we're locked into DJ and Gleyber better figure it out at shortstop.
I think you lock them both in.
I would too. But I'm saying I think it's an interesting decision where they need to make that now for a year in advance. They kind of have to.
I don't think it's much of a secret either that the Yanks probably are not going to be the top bidder for DJ.
Bro,
I mean, that's personally what I think.
We were like just kind of talking about it for a little bit, and we're like, yo, what if that fucker Steve Cohen on the Mets just throws
I tweeted that like a week ago, and everyone freaked out at me. Like, why would you even say that? I had Met fans coming to me being like, DJ is not a fit for us. Like,
get the fuck anyone that the fucking
he's a fit for everyone. They're like, well, we don't want to move. We don't want to move Cano. Like, shut up. Like, they
could play anywhere in the infield.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think that there's a lot bigger areas of need for the Mets before they would sign DJ. But I don't know. I do think that it's going to be interesting to see what his market is, given the fact that I think a lot of teams are going to be, slow to spend after not having fans this year, and they're all going to cry poor. But yeah, I don't know. I think the Mets honestly are one of my bigger fears of maybe coming out and signing him, or who knows. I mean, there could be another team that could come out. I would hope and think, because I heard someone say this yesterday, I forget who, pretty easy offseason for Hal. As long as you keep DJ, I think 90% of the fan base is going to be satisfied with that. If you let DJ walk, no matter what else you do, it's going to be pretty hard to have anyone be satisfied with what you did.
Agreed. So, obviously, we all want DJ back. Nick, if you kind of had to put all your eggs in a basket right now and say, all right, is DJ a Yankee next year? Like, what do you think? Obviously, we want him back, but, I mean, we're kind of trying to break down what we think is going to happen. I'm not really sold on that DJ's necessarily going to be a Yankee unless he's kind of committed to New York, which I obviously think he is. He's said it time and time again that he's, he wants to be here. But I don't know. In the both of your minds, is DJ a Yankee next year?
I'm gonna just say yeah because of what Hal said, and it seems like Hal Steinbrenner understands. And I think the thing that's iffy to me is I really want to see how many years they give him. That's the thing to me, because what is he, 32, 33?
33.
33. So my thing with DJ is I know he's been a stud fielder. He's got, he's not exactly the most agile looking guy. And I think if we sign him, I think he's going to maybe even look for a 5-year deal out of the Yankees. And I don't know how I feel too good about that. I don't know. He's been really good through Colorado and everything, and I want to re-sign him. I'm just concerned of what they're going to do with the terms of years. Cause again, what may happen if you need to move Gleyber over somewhere, what happens there. So that's kind of the thing in my mind. That's what's going to happen, but we need him back. I think we need him back if we want to win what we want to do in the next 2 years, which is win a World Series.
The good thing about DJ is that his style of play, it's not inconceivable that he could be an elite hitter into his mid to late 30s. So
absolutely.
If I had to guess gut feeling, I don't know if a team will come out and offer him 5, if the Yankees offer him 5. I think I'm hoping something like 4 for 100 even I would go, gets it done. But I don't know. I think you guys are right. I think Hal is going to look at this as I'm going to have, a mutiny on my hands if I don't re-sign DJ LeMahieu. So I think that it's probably the cheapest way to satisfy the fan base is re-sign DJ LeMahieu. So I do think it gets done. I'm maybe not as I don't think it's a 100% done deal thing like some other people are suggesting, but I do think he comes back.
Awesome. God damn it, I hope so too.
Yeah.
So let's move on. Even more off-season deals, Nick. I read one of your blogs about just some of the worst Yankee fans you'll see, and just funny to like read
Mhm.
what the fuck these people are thinking, and just like looking through our Twitter feed is absolutely just insane. So look at what some people are just thinking. But one deal, and we can get into like what deals may have you seen that are out that are actually like conceivable, or other ones that are just like crazy that Twitter's talking about. But one deal that I really have been adamant about wanting, because we always end up asking for pitching at a trade deadline, is I think that we have to re-sign Masahiro Tanaka.
Mhm.
I think that, and I've seen people discussing let Tanaka walk. Like I see like this, I forget what guy on Twitter, but like he had a wish list of like things to happen. One of the wish lists was to get like Wilson Contreras, which I just didn't see as realistic.
Yeah.
But like, and he's like, let's just let Masahiro Tanaka walk. I'm like, how are you going to say that when you're begging for fucking Lance Lynn at the trade deadline this
Right.
past year?
Mhm.
The guy, now he had that, not the greatest postseason start, even though the first time was like, rain delay, all weird. But the guy he'll have like that. I forget one of the games at the Trop where he just threw a shutout, I think, or maybe one run game. I forget. It was one of the last matchups with the Rays. But he'll show you those like crazy starts. Well, he'll just be fucking on, and he'll just be a stud. So I'm thinking like we always are fucking looking for pitching outside of Garrett Cole. A lot of our pitchers are really kind of question marks on him. Like who knows what Sevy's going to be when he's back? Who knows what Herman is going to be when he comes back? He had a lot of run support that 20-game winning season. So I think Tanaka is just a guy that you could be, depending on what other moves they make, he's a reliable third starter, and maybe you can even put him at the 4 starter. That's a pretty good fucking 4, depending on the other moves they do. So my opinion is you have DJ more so, but like Tanaka is also, I think they really need to retain him. And I'm scared that he's going to go, though. I think he may go to like a West Coast team or something like that.
Yeah. Listen, I love Tanaka. I mean, I don't know how you could be a Yankee fan and not love Tanaka. I'll see some of the outright hate from people being like, he's just average. He's XYZ. Like, listen, it bothers me. But I do want him back. But the caveat being, I want him back at the right price. Like, I wouldn't extend him for 3 years at what he's making now. You know what I'm saying? We signed him when he was 25-year-old. He was throwing upper 90s before he really started having the elbow trouble. So I'm not paying for that Tanaka 7 years later. If he can take a pay cut and come back on something like a 2-year deal, I do it in a heartbeat. But at the same time, I don't know that I'm paying a premium for Masahiro Tanaka. I'm not giving him a 4-year deal at $20+ million. I'm just not. So I mean, we'll see what the numbers are. I feel like he probably wants to stay. There's rumors that he could be getting offers from Japan for a lot of money to go back and play there. I don't know how true they are, but at the end of the day, I think if he's staying in the MLB, I think he's going to stay a Yankee. I do hope they get that done, but we'll see.
Yeah, I really hope they do, and that's the thing. The only thing that scares me is that someone's going to outbid him, and then the Yankees are going to say, we're going to let him walk. But, I mean, depending on what other moves they do.
Would it be necessary? So this is kind of the only, like, obviously, Nick and Rob, I totally agree with you. We don't stand for any type of Tanaka slander on this pod.
I do not.
Or the Twitter.
Nope.
Tanaka slander is just not accepted. That's an immediate block. I'm kidding. But so the other thing with me is like, listen, Tanaka, obviously he's been well worth his deal. He's the man, this, that, and the third. But we have a lot of young pitchers, and I don't mind bringing him back. I don't think it's a bad deal, like you said, for the right price. But essentially, can you guys kind of see how this would clog up like the starting rotation a little bit? Because like, you have Devi, you have Herman, you have Sevy, and you have Cole. So that's kind of 4 guys that you are anticipating to be a starter. And then you want to bring Clark in at some point. I don't think he's going to be kind of penciled into that roster at the beginning of next year because Cashman's kind of notorious for letting people sit in AAA for a while, which I don't mind. I think he'll be a part of the team at some point next year. And then you also have Gumbo, so you kind of have a lot of arms, and a few of them are young. And I don't want to kind of lock in Tanaka to like a 3 or 4 man. With
the exception of that last start in Game 4, I'm not here for saying Gumbo over Tanaka.
No, well, that's not what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. I understand, but like I'm just saying, like I personally,
like are we done with the Gumbo experiment? And then just then getting in like.
I'm shocked that he did what he did in Game 4. I don't know about you, Nick, But like I just was like,
I agree. Listen, we sat on here and ripped gumbo for some time on this pod, and I'm just saying, kind of, do you want to plug Tanaka in as like this is your 3 or your whatever it may be, your 3 or your 4 or your 2, whatever you're saying for the next 3 years? That's the only thing I'm saying. That's the only kind of little speculation I have about bringing back Tanaka. I would like to see him back, at the right price, but I don't want him to necessarily stop the development of a young pitcher like Clark Schmidt, or stop and I would go as far as to say Domingo Germán, because he's only been, I know he had a ton of run support and he kind of had ERA is a skewed stat as it is, but he had a higher ERA when he was kind of almost our ace for a little bit last year. But that's the only thing that's kind of worrisome to me.
Yeah, I just don't think that bringing back a Tanaka is gonna stunt guys' growth. Like, I think over the course of 162, there's going to be opportunities for everybody. That's why, listen, I agree with you guys. Jordan Montgomery is not someone you're going to lean on. Like, I wouldn't want to be in a position next year where he's starting another win-or-go-home game for us. But I do really think that he has a lot of upside as a back-end starter who can go out and give you 5-6 decent innings every fifth day. Like, I think he's fine. But you do need, a combination, hopefully more than one of Devi, Germán, or Clark to step up and be a guy that you can hand the ball to next year in a game 2 or game 3. So I wouldn't mind having Tanaka back as a guy who you can go to in the playoffs with experience. Hopefully Sevy comes back, and he's the biggest X factor for the Yankees next season, 100%. If Luis Severino comes back and is pre-injury Luis Severino, like I'm talking like before the end of 2018 when he started to have arm issues, that's
Sevy.
a nasty 1-2 with him and Cole. If you can go Cole, Sevy, Tanaka, 1-2-3 in a playoff series next year, that is lethal if those guys are on the line. So we'll see. I do think that Cashman does want to go mostly with a youth movement in the rotation, though. Like, obviously you have Cole and Sevy. I do think that Tanaka comes back, or maybe even James Paxton. I don't know how you guys feel about that, if he's willing to take like a 1-year prove it deal.
We've said a 1 year.
I don't hate that either.
Good. Yeah.
I don't think.
But it's got to be one or the other.
I do think with how thin pitching is this year, I think someone takes a chance on Paxton and gives him a multi-year deal and he dips, but I would give him a chance. But if you look at these guys like Devi, Clark, that Cashman's been hesitant to trade and get more established guys, at a certain point he's going to have to say, all right, well, I held on to you guys. Let's see what we got here, because, at a certain point, what are we doing?
Yeah, I think pitching rotation, the way it's going to go, is going to be very interesting this offseason. But for me, like, I agree with you, Nick, was saying, like, I don't really think it's going to stunt their growth that much because, and like you said, Tyler, like, Cashman has been apprehensive of, like, forming, like, a younger rotation or, like, bringing the guys up eventually and, like, doing that. So I feel like he would be, like, a solid buffer. But, like, my thing is I don't really see too many other good starting pitching options on the free agency market other than maybe Trevor Bauer, and like we have some other options that we could talk about too, that I know Tyler has one that he's been looking at for a possibility. But yeah, I think Tanaka is a guy that you need to keep. Well, hopefully it's for a good price tag, and then we'll kind of see how it goes. But Nick, were there any free agents, maybe like any lefty bats this year that you're looking at? We could go into a little pitching too, Tyler, if you want to mention the pitcher. But Nick, we'll start off. What kind of like lefty bats or any kind of position guys that were you thinking? Do you want to keep, like, do you think like Mike Ford and Mike Tauchman are going to be on this roster? I hope to fucking God not.
I'll give Tauchman a chance to bounce back. I wouldn't want him to be a guy that we're relying on as much as we did this year. I don't know what your guys' feelings on Brett Gardner are. I'm cool with him walking too. I don't really want to pay him $10 million, especially because if you look at Gardner, like him getting starts over Clinton, I know he played well in the playoffs, so I don't want to come off as a Gardner hater, but I just think that you need to give Clint his time to shine at a certain point. So I'm not married to the idea of having Gardner back. The one guy I really want them to go after is Tommy La Stella. I think he's a versatile infielder. He could play first, second, and third, puts the bat on the ball a lot. I don't know how expensive he'll be. That's the thing. So we're going to see, because the Yankees really don't have that much money to play around with, especially if they do bring back DJ LeMahieu and Tanaka. So we'll see. I would say La Stella is probably the guy. I like Michael Brantley a lot too. I think he's going to be too expensive. They're going to roll with Clint. And Brantley doesn't play second. So if I had to pick one guy, I would say it's LaStella.
That would definitely be a wish list. I like that.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of Brantley stuff. I'm just like you said about him not being able to probably play center, and I think it's a lot of people that aren't sold on Clint Frazier. I think the dude is up for a Gold Glove now, and we're big Clint Frazier guys, and I've always been a proponent of saying, like, how does this guy come over in that huge Andrew Miller trade? Like, he's the star guy, and then they weren't really giving him opportunities, and he's being a little bitchy to the media. But then he fixed it. He started catching the ball with two hands, and
He
now
matured.
he matured, and now he's an absolute stud. And I really think he can be a possible all-star, and dare say it, maybe with his bat speed and now the defense coming around, a top 3 guy on this roster in the future, possibly, like him, Glaber, and Judge, like those guys. And now that Gary's kind of showing a little not so good, but so let me the guy that I know, Tyler, you were interested in, Kevin Gausman.
Yeah,
Starting pitching. He's had some really good numbers, and people were saying, "Oh, we need Bauer. We need to give him." He's going to go on 1-year deals the whole time. It seems like he's clearly said that. Like, he would probably be down with hopping from team to team if I really see that from him. But with Gausman, he's a good fill-in guy, I feel.
Yeah, no, I think kind of the narrative that Trevor Bauer, like the whole "let's bring Trevor to New York" thing, I think that's incredibly unrealistic, especially even more now said with most recent comments from ownership and Cashman and so forth. But yeah, no, I'm not going to sit here, like I said in last pod, and pretend like I know a ton about Kevin Gausman, because I absolutely did not watch him pitch at all this year. But just kind of looking at his stats, they look good, and posted a 1.11 WHIP, 79 Ks in 59 innings, with a 3.6 ERA. I mean, that sits well. Even if he could be like a long guy out of the pen, I know that's kind of a stretch and probably unrealistic as well, but just kind of something to keep in the back of your head for sort of a cheap deal. 1 or 2 years, something like that, is kind of intriguing to me. I don't know how you feel about that, Nick.
Yeah, no, I actually like Gausman too. I think he's a potential guy that could have some upside. The only thing is, if the budget is tight, I don't see them going out there and paying a guy who, like, do you really feel better about going to Kevin Gausman in Game 3 than you would Devi or Clark or Domingo? I don't think that you do.
I agree.
I don't know that they would, but I mean, who knows? Especially if God forbid Tanaka doesn't come back, I could see it. I could see them saying, all right, we want to get another veteran in here behind Cole until Sevy comes back, so it's not just Cole and a bunch of kids. But no, I think Gausman definitely has some potential. I think with Bauer, there's a lot of I don't want to say I don't want him, because like if he pitches the way he did this year, then like sign me up. Like, that would be nasty with him and Cole. But his career track record has shown he's not necessarily that kind of pitcher.
Yeah.
Are we going to pay this guy? And I don't believe he's going to take a 1-year deal anymore. When he said that, he was coming off a bad 2019. I saw his agent tweeted the other day, we're open to any and all kinds of deals. So, like, I think he's a smart guy. He's going to take the bag. He's going to take the 5-6 year deal. Some team's going to offer him to be their ace. But, I just think that I'm not going to pay a guy a multi-year deal, big money, after 12 starts in only playing the Central teams, which, you can't really gauge that. And I do think that there is a potential for – I don't buy into the him and Cole beef. It might be real. I don't think that would be like a determining factor whether or not he signs. I do think that his activeness on social media, like, I don't know. I don't know how that would fare in New York. Like, I think it's kind of a legitimate concern. Like, if he saw I don't know if you guys saw the video he posted after the Reds got eliminated, of like the meme was like him and Acuna, and like, that's funny. I think it's funny because it's like an outside thing. But like, if he was posting that like the day after the Rays Game 5, like, I would not take well to that. Like, I know probably most Yankee fans wouldn't. So I like Trevor Bauer a lot. I just kind of want to keep admiring him from afar. I don't know that I want him to be a Yankee as badly as a lot of other people do.
Yeah. One thing too that I made the point on the last pod when one of my other buddies was on, it was like, You don't think too, like Bauer kind of knows the vibe in New York, and he kind of knows that what's going on. I mean, he's best friend, or it seems like from his vlog that he's really good friends with Sonny Gray, and we all know that
Yeah.
we despise him at this point. And you don't think he's kind of in his ear and saying stuff to him. That was kind of my perception, and also with the social media stuff. It
Mhm.
just it doesn't really seem like a crazy fit, even though it is 2020 and like it's a big part of the game and stuff.
Mhm.
And but he doesn't really seem like a Yankee kind of guy to me. That's all, and especially the other factors that we talked about. But I'll throw out a couple relievers that I think would possibly be okay. A little bit of a price tag, a little bit of a reach, but we're being weird and we're talking about different acquisitions that we could possibly do. I was thinking one guy that I was looking at that may have a price tag because he finished off the year really well and he automatically like had some sort of resurgence. It seems like was Trevor Rosenthal
Mhm.
for pitch with San Diego, and like he looked like he was done, and then he just turned it around with San Diego. Now
Yeah.
small sample size, but something that the Yankees could definitely look at because God knows that we just have flipped the script when it comes to our bullpen. And another guy that's free agent, but probably going to have a high price tag, Liam Hendricks. But Oakland has been known not to want to pay their guys, and they have a lot of guys coming off the books this year and in the foreseeable future. So maybe the Yankees would want to take a look at that because they've shown that, especially when they signed Tyler's favorite pitcher, Adam Ottavino, that they have no problem. You know, I didn't really at the time I was thinking like, oh, Adam Ottavino, that guy just had a crazy year with the Rockies, and we just signed
For
him.
half a year, I loved him.
Yeah, for half a season, he was good.
Now I want him in the sun.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Straight to the sun.
So those were just some of the bullpen guys. If there's any other people that we may have missed, or I think we kind of covered most of it, and we'll kind of see how it goes in the future. But I mean, the free agency market isn't really crazy. I mean, Ken Giles too for Toronto is a free agent who's pretty solid. The closer, I don't know how we feel about him. Sean Doolittle though, coming off the books for Washington, could also be interesting. I'd love to see him shave the fucking beard and. Because
He had
like
a really
Washington,
good year the year before that.
yeah.
I don't really know how he did this year, but
So those are just some interesting guys. So straying a little bit away from the Yankees, but always related back to the Yankees because it is Major League Baseball. Let's talk a little bit about the 2021 season to kind of almost wrap this up. So Manfred, I saw, was on the pregame for Baseball Tonight yesterday and was talking about some of the new stuff that they entered in for the COVID year. And honestly, I think we all know like we are not the biggest fans of Rob Manfred overall, but I know you guys have some thoughts on it. But he was asked by Carl Ravitch directly, and he was asked like, do you see he wasn't asked about the DH, but he was asked about expanded playoffs and what is it, can it be seen going forward, the runner on second, and the other one was 7-inning doubleheaders. And to his credit, he said, I don't really see it in like the near future. I think they are sold on the expanded playoffs, but not, he did say he said not 16 teams. So my thing with the expanded playoffs is I know it's going to rile up a lot of fans, and I'm sure you guys have thoughts on it. But I think if they did something along the lines of like, if instead of doing a 1-game wild card and then they maybe did like a 3-game set with that, I could see it as more plausible. I would kind of like that, especially if the Yankees eventually had to do like a wild card and, you know, however long they have to do it. And they had to get a wild card. I would rather do that than a 1-game playoff. But and he didn't really talk about the DH. So I think that will come eventually, but I'm not sure. I don't know about next year, but we'll have to see. But Nick, I know I've seen your Twitter feed. You're not a big fan of Rob Manfred. So
No, to say the least, I'm not.
Yeah.
Listen, the DH, I don't really care too much. It is what it is. I think it's stupid that we still have pitchers hitting, or that we might, but whatever. We're Yankee fans. It's not going to affect us anyway. The expanded playoffs, I do think, is here to stay, and they absolutely need to redo the format of that, because at the very least, you need to incentivize winning your division. That's why I thought the wild card game was so great, because it meant something to win your division to avoid that one.
I love the
playoff.
wild card game. I don't know why. I just love the one game.
Oh, the wild card game is awesome. I wasn't sure when that.
I hate being in it. I hate being in it.
But we were in it 3 times. I went to the one in 2015 that we lost. But no, the wild card game was awesome, and it really incentivized winning your division. If you win your division, you should go to the division series. Like, baseball honestly got really lucky this year, and I didn't hate it because it's a 60-game season, but best of 3 series, you need, if you win your division, especially over the course of 162, you need more incentive than just having those games at home. Like baseball got lucky that none of the 1 or 2 seeds got like knocked off in the first round. I mean, the biggest upset was Marlins Cubs. I didn't think the Cubs were even that great this year anyway. But imagine if the Brewers took down the Dodgers this year in the first round. Like it's not impossible. Best of 3 series, anything can really happen. Just because the game's at home, it doesn't matter to me. So I think if they're going to redo expanded playoffs, which they're going to, because A, more playoff games is more money. That's where the money's at. And B, not only that, but if you're an owner now, you can put the same amount of money into your team, win 88 games. And instead of missing the playoffs by 6 games, you can miss it by a game and say, oh, guys, look, we were right there. We were right there. So owners can spend less money and make more money, which sucks because at the end of the day, it's not making anything more competitive because owners are going to go for it or not. But they're going to sell making the playoffs as, oh, guys, we were right there this year. So it's here to stay. I think they need to redo it. And I don't know how they're going to do it. Like you said, I definitely wouldn't mind like a little play-in around, but we'll see.
Tyler?
I mean, I also agree with the expanded playoffs. I think it's here to stay, especially because even with the COVID year, I think it's so much more money for the owners, especially in that aspect, just because, playoff revenue is so important compared to postseason revenue. I mean, we saw it just this year, even with like in comparison to like the NBA finals or even football. I mean, I think NLCS Game 7 got higher ratings than every single NBA playoff game. So I don't think baseball is dying, and I think this is a good way to kind of grab the attention of a younger audience and maybe keep those boomers that kind of hate baseball right now because it's fun,
Yeah.
But I think it's here to stay. I agree. I like your idea. I saw your tweet that the format has to be different. If you win your division, you should definitely go to the ALDS. I think baseball definitely kind of got away with one this year with the no upset thing because I don't even really think the Marlins Cubs was an upset. I know you mentioned it, but like you said, the Cubs weren't too good. The Marlins had some pretty good young pitchers and, just a fun electric team. So I think that's here to stay. I did see a little bit on Twitter floating around today. I'm not sure how accurate it is that the NL, at least for next year, might not be having the DH come back. But I think that's in the near future as well. The runner on second, I hate it.
I don't think that's gonna.
That's the worst.
That
might be the worst.
I think like Manfred said, to his credit, was asked about that, and he was like, I think it was okay for the COVID year. And I do too. Like, I heard a lot of people bitching about the runner on second, but you had to understand they were under a lot of fucking pressure to get these games, and they had already fucked up with the collective bargaining or whatever they were trying to pay the players, and they got another one coming up in 2021. So who knows how much baseball or when baseball is going to start next year, and who knows if they're even going to have to do that because the 7-game doubleheaders or whatever because they want to just fit in the game. So hopefully they don't have to, and hopefully they get something situated next year with the Players Association. But like they just had to fit in games, so I knew that like it sucked and like we would have to complain about it. But it was just such a like a lot of these baseball fans that were on Twitter that were just like constantly saying like it fucking sucks. Like just have a little perspective is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like understand that he had messed up. Or they had messed up with even getting the season started late. Baseball would have gotten a huge win if they had started really at this peak part of quarantine. And if
baseball can't get out of their own way, if they had just started 3 weeks earlier, imagine opening day on the 4th of July. It was sitting right there in front of them, would have been so perfect. But of course, and Manfred stalled because the owners only wanted to pay for the 60 games. That was blatantly obvious. But look, the 7-inning doubleheaders and the runner on second sucked, but for this year it was what it was. Like, how many times did you guys think we're not getting baseball this year? Even a couple days into the season with the Marlins outbreak, it looked like we weren't going to finish the season at that point. But it was what it was. I get it. You had teams playing 60 games in not even 60 days. Look at the Cardinals. That you had to keep these guys off the field as much as possible. But if they somehow keep those rules in play for next year, that's really diminishing the game itself, and it would just suck.
I could see them kind of implementing like a runner on second rule, say if you get to like the 14th inning or something.
Yeah, if you want to do it that late, that's fine. But like I've seen with the runner on second rule, so many people come like out in defense of it now, being like, it's actually not that bad. Like, no, it's the fucking worst. It's
Yeah,
terrible.
it's not baseball.
The Yankees walk-offs this year in extras did not feel the same. Like, if you shut them down in that first half, it would be like bunt them. Like, they didn't bunt, but, if you get in the third sac fly or, like, a single with the guy on second, like, it was just kind of like.
Yeah, remember the Luke Voigt sac fly walk-off? I think DJ
I,
was
like,
on.
almost
So
felt like we
exciting.
didn't even win that game. Like, there's no, like I kind of love, like, people were actually kind of defending it after Braves-Reds game 1, that game that went 13 innings before someone scored and the Braves won. But I kind of love those hilariously awful games that go like Yankees. I don't know if you guys remember in 2017 at Wrigley, they played in an 18-inning game against the Cubs that they won. That game was fucking a shit show, but it was awesome. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It is what it is. I wouldn't hate if they did run on second after, like you said, like the 14th or something. But if they do that in the 10th again in the 7-inning doubleheaders, that's just going to be so brutal.
Yeah, 7-inning doubleheaders I think are very, very time of the past.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope so. But yeah.
So before we wrap it up, Nick, who do you got winning the World Series now that it's tied 1-1? Who do you think's gonna pull it off?
I said Dodgers in 6, I think, on Twitter, so I'll stick with that. I don't know. I just think they have a better lineup. I did see a lot of people kind of acting like the Rays weren't going to be able to hang. I think with that pitching staff, and especially the fact that now there's 2 off days where they can rest their top relievers and they could go conceivably in pretty much every game in this series. I think that they're going to be a threat. I think it's going to go 6 or 7, but I'll say the Dodgers, but I could easily see it going either way.
Yeah, I think I said 6, and then Tyler, you said 5 for Dodgers.
Yeah, so they better give me a clean sweep.
Yeah, little gentleman's sweep.
So to wrap it up, we'll go with one last thing. We're gonna go with our so far what we've seen, I guess, in the offseason, but you could say some that happened during the season. Most ridiculous takes. One that I saw the other day, I think I mentioned on the podcast, I mentioned it earlier in this episode, was the dude that was like, we're going to make a run for Wilson Contreras, because I just don't see that as, like, you're going to have to give up a lot for him. Like, people underrate how good of a player. I don't like the Cubs. Like, I don't like that team. I think they're going to be split up soon. I think David Ross was a terrible hire. But I think that, to think that we're going to just switch around because Gary just fucking sucked, we're going to go out there and get probably the second best catcher in the NL. Like, I mean, JT number 1, and people even asking for JT is like, that we don't have that much money to really go with. But I think
also just don't want to pay nearly $200 million for a catcher on the wrong side of 30. Like, he's super talented, but I'll spend that money on pitching at that point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I'll take my chances with Bauer at that point. Honestly.
We don't need, like we've discussed, like we don't need our lineup top to bottom. Like, catcher is a plus, kind of like with that hitting, and like that's why I'm cool with rocking with Higgy. And I think Higgy is just showing that he can fucking play. Like, I really want to give him a shot at playing, giving him more at bats and giving him more opportunities, and like see what he does. And if he's not that good, then we'll look elsewhere. But if he could like just be maybe like 250, 260 hitter with, in a full season, I don't know, close to like 15 home runs maybe, and like driving some runs, like I have no problem with rocking with that, and then saying adios to Gary if he keeps hitting below triple digit and hitting. If the first number in your batting average is 0, it's probably not good. So but what about Nick, what take did you see, or like something that I guess maybe on top of mind that you're just like, stop it?
So I'll actually go with what I wrote my blog about for BP this Wednesday. So NJ.com posted this article, and it was like an anonymous scout. I don't know if you guys read it. An anonymous scout kind of bashing the Yankees and saying everything that's wrong. And like, it was a really weird read. Like, he was bashing on Cashman for analytics. And then like, it was just, the whole thing was weird. But the worst part was they were ripping on Matt Blake. And I was like, listen, I'm not ready to make judgments of Matt Blake based off of a 60-game season. And listen, I piled on Larry Rothschild, and like, I don't think a pitching coach makes that big of an impact in general, or at least not to the point where it's one of the first things you're mentioning about why your team didn't win a World Series. But the guy was like, yeah, you could see Matt Blake's body language when he was going to the mound. Like, what are we talking about here? And like the fact that like this wasn't some random on Twitter. Like, I see this every day from people being like, XYZ, he's a loser because he did this. Like, I see those takes, but the fact this guy is apparently a scout, like I'm reading an NJ.com article and we're saying Matt Blake's body language doesn't portray confidence, and that's a reason the Yankees didn't beat the Rays. Like, I wanted to like wasn't sure whether to laugh or puke at that line. I was like, what is going on here?
That's a good one. I did see
Grasping
that
for
article
straws
too.
there.
I did see that article. Yeah, we got to see more from or like see what the pitching staff develop. I mean, it's a lot of young pitchers, it seems like, so it's going to give us an opportunity to see what he does with them. So,
Yep.
yeah, I like that one.
I'd
What about
rather
you,
have it. Definitely, I got to go with essentially any type of Luke Voit trade scenario.
Oh my God, dude!
Like those
hate
just really
those.
bother me. They're like, all right, sign
Oh.
DJ, move Glaber to second, and sign Didi at short, and get rid of Luke
Yeah.
Voit.
Oh my God.
I'm just
Okay,
like,
the Didi.
get the hell out of here.
Listen, I love Didi. Didi was my favorite player. Like the
Price tag
2017
is gonna
wild
be
card homer is
way
one of my
too
favorite.
high.
But like the inability for people to move on this year is like, listen, like it's not like we're not talking Derek Jeter walking. Like the guy never won a World Series with us. Like I love Didi. I'm glad he had a bounce back year. If he somehow ended up coming back this year, which I don't see happening, like I wouldn't be mad about it at all. I love Didi, but like people are just like, you gotta like, it's the telltale sign of people who only started watching this team in 2017. They're like, they tweet about Didi every single day. It's like, give it a rest already. Like I love the guy more than anybody, but come on. Like,
yeah, and we're not chipping off Luke Voit to get Didi back at short.
listen though, so because I saw you guys had this on the sheet. So listen, I'm not saying we should trade Luke Voit. I love him. The fact that everyone else like was hurt this year, he played through the foot stuff, which was hilarious. That's what was referred to.
His value's insanely high right now.
I love Luke Voit, but would you consider moving him? And I'm not saying move him just to free up a spot because that's stupid. To move one of your better players just to get more left-handed or free up a spot, I think that's stupid. But if you could get a really good starting pitcher back, like a solid number two, like I'm talking like would have to be like Kyle Hendricks and Zach Plesac are two names that I would throw around, which I don't know how realistic either of them are. Would you at least consider it?
Oh yeah, I would.
Yeah.
I would definitely consider it. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, first base is also a position that you could really. It's. I don't want to say it's easy to find a bopper, but like it's. I don't know.
You can kind of you could
play around with it
than you could a center fielder or a shortstop.
Yeah,
I would also definitely consider it. I'd like to, entertain it, but it's just
entertain it. Not yet though. I got too much of a Luke Voit vibe going on.
It's just kind of upsetting that like that Stanton can't play left because there'd be so much more flexibility for Luke. Kind of at the and DJ and Glaber. It kind of affects all four of them, knowing that Stanton will kind of never be able to play the outfield again because it kind of locks in, the infield to where they are.
Yep.
$200 million DH, but
sucks.
it stinks. But Nick,
the frustrating thing is he's a good fielder too, but now it's just the point where you're so afraid he's gonna get hurt again, you can't stick him out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Hit 3 hard sand and give me 35 home runs, and I won't talk about your contract. But,
Give
stay
me
on the field and do it.
Give me what you did in that fucking postseason. He shut me up big time.
Yeah, sit out every year, play 10 games a year for all I care. If you're going to do that in the playoffs, then that's fine. I had this take, and it almost ended up coming to fruition. I don't care what he does. If he can lead them on an A-Rod in 09 type run.
That's what it looked like to me. I was like,
win a World Series, I'll never mention his contract ever again. Ever again.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's going to be it for this episode 16. Nick, we really appreciate you coming on and being another voice. We'll definitely try and have you on again, maybe more so in the off season or during the season. We'll definitely try and have you on and just, chop it up about the Yanks because, that's when bread and butter's happening. But go follow Nick at Costanzo 24 on Twitter.
Yep.
And go check him out on BronxPinstripes.com to go check out his articles. I've read a good amount of them, and they're very good. And we're going to continue to engage with us on Twitter, and we're going to post this will probably be up on Friday, and keep an eye out for it. And listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Give us a rate and review there. Let us know what you guys think of our commentary on the Yankees. We always invite like a little bit of critique, Nick. We have no problem with anyone calling us out for their takes, but I think we're like pretty in line with like what people are thinking in smart Yankees.
No, this was awesome. No, you guys are great. I was listening to a couple of your pods this morning because I hadn't listened previously, but no, you guys are great. You guys are as rational as Yankee Twitter can be. And yeah, no, I like that you guys are open to criticism. I usually end a lot of my blogs because I never know how to end them, being like, on Twitter and tell me why I'm wrong. Because I like engaging with people as long as you're respectful about it. I like having conversations. What it's all about.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Nick, I appreciate it though. I had a good time today chatting with you.
It's a lot of fun. I really appreciate it. We'll do it again.
Absolutely. So once again, leave us a rate and review on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Hit us up on Twitter @4Savages, and we will catch you next time. Thanks.